Hello everyone, Michael here. Today we are going to be discussing why money is time, not the other way around. If you're not familiar with the other way around, it's that time is money. If you happen to watch SpongeBob as a kid, I said I wouldn't use this reference, but here we go. If you watched SpongeBob when you were a kid, you probably remember Mr. Krabs yelling at SpongeBob when they're flipping burgers. Time is money, my boy. I don't know how I remember that so well. I didn't even have cable growing up. But anyway, I think Mr. Krabs is wrong. And I think he's wrong because with that type of mindset, you are putting money in front of everything else, or at least you're valuing it too highly and not fully understanding what it can do for you. So that's what we're going to discuss today. If you're new here, welcome. I'm also new here. This is video number 2, so we're going to see how it goes. There's 2 main points that we're going to discuss related to this topic, and that is that if you're looking at your spending, if you're tracking it, and if you have that data in front of you, it's important to know what a dollar is actually worth for you. It'll help you prioritize better. It'll help you understand if your spending is worth it for you, if you're getting the proper amount of fulfillment from it, or if you're not necessarily throwing it away, but spending it on the wrong things. And it turns out the way to do that is to think of those dollars as your time, the time you spent earning the money that you're spending. So we'll dive into that. And the other main point is, as you save and invest for your future, you are buying back time. That's something that I say pretty often, or buying your freedom sometimes. And the idea there is the more money you stash away, the sooner you don't have to work for money anymore. So I'm a big believer that retirement is not an age, it's a number, and that number is dollars. It's just whatever amount it would take to cover your lifestyle, your spending, and obviously there's lots of little details that can go into that, but things like what you're invested in, what your expected rate of return is, inflation, obviously. That one's not actually as scary as most people make it out to be. We probably won't go too deep into all those technical details. I'm just trying to lay out the mindset that money is time. So, point number 1, money is time. What do I mean? Well, it might be helpful to start with a little story, because when people start, I think oftentimes when people start tracking their spending, trying to get their self set up, trying to get better at personal finance, let's say, there's a lot of talk about tightening up your budget and not overspending, tackling debt, and those are all great things, but there's also a decent amount of people that I meet that feel guilty about spending on things. That was me, basically. I was a super saver. I didn't like spending money, and it got to the point where once we had our first boy, our expenses for him were slowly increasing, and for a few months in a row there, we were spending over $400 on diapers, some toys, some clothes, you name it, baby stuff. And I was reviewing my spending tracker one month, and I was just like, man, this kid is so expensive, $400. Like, what are we buying him? That's I don't like that. I thought it was so awful. I said, well, $400, what does that mean? I don't really care about $400 as far as $401 bills, or you name it, whatever way you want to slice it up. Like, the money itself, I really don't care. It's just, well, that's a big idea too. Money is just a tool. So it wasn't until I really started thinking about it in terms of how long did I have to be at work in order to earn that $400? And it turns out it wasn't as long as I thought. It requires that you know how much you make per hour, whether you're actually hourly or salary based. And that's a topic of itself I'll do a video on later, because there's a lot of detail that can go into it. Like, there's your salary or your wage, and then there's all the benefits. You can calculate how much value that is, and then you can subtract your expenses, like the gas you need to drive to work, the wear and tear on your vehicle and stuff like that. You can even factor in your time driving, your time spent at lunch, if you see that as that's part of going to work to have that job and earn that money. So I'm of the belief that I spend more than 8 hours a day at work or on work earning that money, because I factor in my time, all my time, driving, commuting, especially if you have a job that can be done remotely and you have to go into the office. Then I think it really counts. But anyway, I'm not going to dive all the way down that topic right now. So when I was spending over $400 a month on my first child, and I did that comparison, I converted it to how many hours I had to work to earn that money, and it wasn't that many. So it took away the guilt, I guess, from the spending. And as someone who's like defaults to saving like crazy and being super, I like to call myself frugal, because frugal is a good thing. Being cheap is a bad thing. I was being cheap. I was pretty cheap for a long time. But converting it to hours made me think, at the time I think it was about 10 hours of work, a little more than a day. It's like, okay, I will gladly go to work for a little more than a day per month, so that my firstborn son has everything he needs for that month. That's like the easiest deal ever. And it's because I value providing for him so much. But there are other categories where clothing, let's use clothing. If you told me I went to work for 2 days to buy whatever clothing I bought that month, I'd be like, wish I could undo that. I'd rather have those 2 days back. Not that you'll ever technically get them back, but it helps give you a comparison, rather than just saying, well, here's a stack of clothes worth $300, let's say. Was it worth $300? Am I happy spending $300? Well, what does that mean? Maybe would I be happier if I only spent $200 on clothes? It's like, I don't really care about $100 per se. It sounds like a lot of money to some people. It sounds like not a lot of money to others. But it makes it easier to understand the value of what you're buying if you convert it to your time, because everyone values their time. It feels more real when you convert it to your time. The other example would be like a gym membership. I stopped paying for gym memberships recently, because I was like, wow, I remember when I was younger they were $20 a month and it was a pretty decent gym. Now they're $45 a month, and that just feels, that's the cheap side of me. But if I did the same hourly analysis on that, it'd be basically I have a decent job. I'm not trying to brag or anything, it's just the math of it, but basically a single hour per month would pay for a gym membership. So it's like, okay, so how much do you value your health? Do you need a gym membership to be healthy? Not really, but it helps, depending on what type of working out, what type of exercises you like to do. But okay, a single hour to have a gym membership, if you actually use it, and let's say you go to the gym 5 hours a week, it starts to look like a pretty good return on investment, especially if you start to expand and make your little analysis more complex. If you just try to factor in the health benefits you get from exercising regularly, that will reduce your medical bills as you age. I was going to say it'll slow down. That's not really true, but I'm trying to think of the right words. So if you can be healthier longer and delay, those medical bills that come later in life as your body deteriorates, you're probably making a super good return on investment. That $45 a month or whatever is probably more than pays for itself in saved medical costs, assuming you actually use it. I know a lot of people that have gym memberships that don't use them. So those are just two examples. I was always on the side of, it helped me feel better about what I was spending money on, because I was always over saving. but it will work the same way for people who are overspending and not saving enough. So actually the first person I helped with my little financial coaching business, she started tracking her spending, realized, oh wow, I'm spending way more, not even on like nice dinners, eating out at a restaurant, just the little things like Scooter's Coffee and Caribou Coffee and bagels, just getting quick, easy food. And so that jumped off the page at her as something that she's like, oh wow, that's a lot more than I thought I was spending. And right now she was still in school, not working full time. She is now, so she went through the process of saying, well, right now it looks really expensive based on my time because my equivalent hourly rate is really low, but pretty soon it will be quite high. So maybe I'll just dial it back now and then add it later if I feel like it. And that it just gave her a tool to use to really understand how she felt about where her money was going. So, and then that's the first point. I think you get the idea. I won't beat it to death. The second point is the idea of, as you save and invest money, you're buying your time back, and that retirement is not an age, it's a number. And this is multiple videos, just touching the surface of a topic that could be multiple videos. But the idea there is, if you track your spending, let's say you're the type of person that likes to spend, maybe your family that likes to spend $80,000 a year, and you can say that's a good lifestyle. I'm happy, I'm fulfilled, I'm content. Well, it turns out there are estimates and calculations you can do to figure out, okay, how much do I have to save into my retirement nest egg so that I can pull that $80,000 out every year from my investments rather than working a job that pays me, $80,000 or more a year. And the faster you build up to that number, the sooner you can stop working for money. So that's the idea of buying back your time. So once you hit that number, you could, if you choose, you don't have to, but if you choose to stop being employed by someone else, you'll have way more time for your hobbies, your passion projects, whatever else you want to do with your life. And even on the journey to that number, knowing that you have that foundation building in the background buys you flexibility and options, and you're allowed to you'll have the confidence to take a few more risks. So if you want to do a career change where it's like, well, if it doesn't work out, you're not going to end up on the street. That's actually not very likely. But even if it's not super likely, the more savings you have behind the scenes, the more confidence you'd have in making a decision like that. That's something that I think about quite a bit. Actually, yeah, let's say that. So that's the whole idea behind the financial coaching, the YouTube videos, like the stuff I'm doing on the side is, I went to school for engineering, got an engineering job because I was good at math and science. I liked physics and things like that, but it's primarily because I expected financial security. It seemed like, engineering was always described as a pretty lucrative career field, still is, but things are going more like software development and tech and computer engineering, things like that. And I'm working on building that nest egg in the background. And yeah, it is buying flexibility. There probably will be a day where I technically wouldn't be able to live without some kind of income, but maybe I can leave engineering and do something else for a while, where if I wasn't saving that money, I'd be scared to lose or leave my engineering job, and I would just work until 65, 67 or whatever, like pretty much everyone else. So man, yeah, I just wanted to give a quick introduction to the idea that saving money is time, because you can use it to fulfill your needs rather than working for someone else to fulfill your needs. And there's nothing wrong with working. I don't actually plan on, yeah, man, there's a whole community called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. And a lot of people love it. A lot of people give it a lot of hate because, there's people that'll say, I retired in my 30s. And it's like, well, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? I'd be so bored. And there's people who, they quit their jobs and they get bored and they just go back. But I don't think of retiring as sitting on the beach or sitting in front of the TV. I'd still work. I'd do the work I want to do and not work for someone else and do the work that they tell me to do. That's the difference. So that's why I typically just call it the financial independence part and not really use the retire early. But there's a lot of other videos I could do to expand on these topics, and I totally intend to. It's super interesting to me, but we'll leave it there. And any videos that I have out that are relevant to this topic, especially the why you should track your spending instead of build a budget when you're first starting out, go ahead and watch that one because it's related. And the next one that I make will probably be how to actually use this cash flow tracker that I give away for free on my website, because this all ties together. And we'll see you in the next one.